Welcome back to the YouTube channel. So today we are talking about something that lives at the very center of everything I teach, and that is how to create a blueprint for an extraordinary life. Now, that's what we're all reaching for, right? No matter where we come from, or what we believe, or where we live, underneath all the noise, we really want the same things, right? We want to be good people. We want to feel like our true selves. We want to make a difference. We want to love. We want to belong. We want to have meaningful work. We want to have deep connections. But the simple truth that actually unites us, that truth has been hijacked. So it's been hijacked by politics. It's been hijacked by headlines. It's been hijacked by social media and the lies on social media. It's been hijacked by the constant pressure to fit in and to keep up. And so all that noise makes it very easy to forget who you really are and what really matters. And I think that's why you're here, because every time you tune into this channel, something inside of you remembers. And you remember that you are capable of more. And you remember that you deserve more. And you remember that life is not meant to be lived on autopilot. So the lie that you've been told is that the world is something that's happening to you and you're just powerless to it. The truth is, you absolutely have the power to change your life. Your brain actually rewards standing in your authentic self and living your life from there. When you are fully being you, your nervous system, your cells, your energy, all of it organizes around alignment with your authentic self. So you stop leaking your life force into those old automatic stories and beliefs, and you begin to step into the flow of who you really are and the flow of who you were always meant to be. And that's how you start creating an extraordinary life. So let's dive into this a little bit. Okay. When I talk about standing in your authentic self, most people think, well, that's a finish line, right? If I fix this, if I achieve that, if I heal this wound, then I'll finally be able to live my life from my authentic self. Your authentic self is not a destination. It is a process. It is a living, breathing relationship with yourself. It is a journey of growth and discovery and becoming. So even if you were 100% right about who you are today, right? If you lock that in forever, you'd be inauthentic tomorrow because you are meant to evolve. Now, here's the beautiful thing. No matter your age, no matter your story, no matter your past, no matter your starting point, the moment you choose to turn towards your authentic self, things start to shift. Your confidence expands, your relationships deepen, your sense of belonging strengthens. You begin to feel at home inside yourself and inside the life that you're designing moving forward. But to live that extraordinary life, you have to meet the part of you that's been standing in the way. So, this is where we talk about your inner critic self, right? That the self, the identity that's been formed by your automatic mind that thinks for you. You don't think, your mind just goes. So, your inner critic is the voice of your conditioned identity. And that self was wired for one purpose, to keep you safe, meaning That's the self that tries to make sure that you belong, that you're loved, that you're worthy. But that's the part of you that lives in fear. That's the part of you that tells stories that you've got to control things in your life in order to feel okay, that you're not really good enough to have what you want. So that part of you is the part that whispers, don't rock the boat. Don't don't risk too much. Don't be too much. And if you don't consciously work on that part of you and understand how to observe that part and unhook yourself from that part of you will run your whole life. That's the part of you that keeps silencing you. That's the part of you that convinces you that you're powerless. That's the part of you that loops in the same emotional patterns over and over and over again with the same old thoughts, same old emotions, same old behaviors, same old life. But behind that self, beyond that self, that's where your authentic self lives. That's the part of you that doesn't need to prove anything. That's the part of you that remembers why you're here and what your life is for. That is the part of you that already is extraordinary. So the blueprint for an extraordinary life is not something outside of you. It's not something where you say, okay, step one, do this, step two, do this, and eat better and exercise and do these things. Those are all important. But the blueprint for an extraordinary life is what happens when you start, even in small ways, unhooking from your inner critic self and turning towards your authentic self and living from that self. So that's when transformation within yourself and within your life starts to feel, I'm going to say it, almost magical. Because as your inner world shifts, your outer world reorganizes to match it. And this is when doors open. And this is when synchronicities unfold. This is when people show up to get you to the next step that you never could have seen coming. This is when opportunities appear without you chasing them, okay? It's not a coincidence. It's coherence. So when you live from that inner alignment, you stop chasing the future and you start living the life that's always been waiting for you. Now, the truth that most people don't want to admit is that the status quo life is not good enough. Now, deep down, I think you already know that. I think that's why you're here. I think you know that what's familiar is not necessarily fulfilling. I think you know that you deserve more than comfortable mediocrity. I think somewhere you know that you deserve an extraordinary life. If you don't know that you deserve an extraordinary life, that's because you're merged with your inner critic self. So here's the thing that's so important to understand. Time is going to pass anyway, right? Days are going to turn into months. Months are going to turn into years. Years are going to turn into decades. So why wouldn't you start? Why wouldn't you just start with the smallest acts of living in your authentic self? Because the moment that you take that first tiny step, the entire trajectory of your life begins to change. And one day, with these tiny little steps over time, over time, over time, you'll look back and you will barely recognize who you used to be. So I think about my journey a lot, right? My life, especially my career, is proof of what happens when you take radical responsibility for yourself and start doing the daily work of unhooking from your inner critic self and turning towards your authentic self. Now, when I say radical responsibility, I do not mean blaming yourself. I do not mean feeling guilty. I mean the powerful choice to stop waiting for the world to change and to start mastering the one thing you can, which is your thoughts, your beliefs, your energy, your actions. When you do that, your outer world begins to align with your inner world. Again, it's really not magic, it's just alignment. So every single day, I am in practice to be the woman I want to be. It does not happen by accident, certainly does not happen automatically. I very consciously think about how I want to show up. I think about what energy I'm embodying. I think about what story I'm believing in the moment. Now, when the thoughts and beliefs and emotions and behaviors line up in accordance with my authentic self, life moves with me, not against me. But this doesn't happen all at once, it happens very gradually. So I still remember 10 years ago in 2015, I created my very first 1 hour Dethroning Your Inner Critic workshop. And that one workshop was way out of my comfort zone. And my inner critic self was loud, right? I didn't know what would happen, but I took the step anyway. Now, that one small step expanded me into someone new. It literally expanded me into someone that I was not before I did that. And that's how it works. One small step at a time, one whisper at a time. So every time you lean into that quiet nudge, right, of what's next, you evolve. And so even a year ago, I'm not the same woman right now, today, than I was even a year ago. And it's not because of some massive overnight transformation. It's not because of some huge thing that happened. It's because of the continued, never ending journey of following that whisper and using my inner critic self as the gateway, as the portal to my authentic self. I meet her every day. That's the M step of the mind method. I investigate the indication signs, the blinking red lights that alert me that my inner critic has taken over my mind, my body, my spirit. That's the I step of the mind method. I lean in to the never ending message and I neutralize that never ending message. That's the end step, that never ending message that tells me, you're really not good enough and people are going to find out, right? And the D step is what happens when you continually use the M and the I and the N to unhook yourself from that automatic self. You design your life. That's the D step. It's not a linear process. There's no end point. It's the work all day, every day. And that's how we literally walk ourselves moment by moment by moment, step by step by step into our most powerful selves and our most extraordinary lives. So the blueprint is not built in one leap. It's not built from one action. It's built in 1,000 little, small, courageous moments. So ask yourself right now, who is the person you're becoming? Not the fantasy version your inner critic created to chase the worthiness, but the version of you who already knows their worth now, before anything changes, before anything is different. The version of you who trusts yourself, the version of you who doesn't hustle for permission to be great. So when you live from that place, your life becomes your message. You become a lighthouse for others that are still caught in the fog. So we all need something to hope for. a vision, a spark, something that pulls us forward when the old stories want to drag us back. And so if you don't yet know what that is, then let the pursuit of yourself be your North Star. Pursue the version of you who feels free and aligned and alive. Pursue the you who doesn't need external validation to take up space in the world. And that starts with one choice. It could be eat differently. It could be speak to yourself differently. It could be breathe differently. It could be move differently. Because when you shift your relationship with yourself, everything else flows. So here is the real key. We are all on a journey, not to become someone better, right? So that we can be more worthy, but to remember that we already are. So this journey is about expansion. It's not about fixing. It's about evolving your beliefs, evolving your nervous system, evolving your consciousness so that you leave the world and you leave yourself better than you found them. That's what an extraordinary life really is. So the thing that no one really talks about is that life isn't linear, right? We get obsessed with this, idea that life should, I should just keep growing and it should just be this like sort of steady growth, right? Like this effortless, shiny, constant progress. Real transformation is messy. It's cyclical, right? When things don't work out, it's not that you didn't work. It just wasn't your moment. It wasn't your door. In what I've been building for 10 years, I've been all over the map. There were so many doors that didn't open. There were so many moments that I thought were going to be that were not meant to be. The sooner you can separate your worth from the outcome, the freer you become. Perfectionism is driven by fear, by your inner critic's obsession with how things are supposed to be and how they're supposed to go and how they're supposed to look. Excellence is driven by alignment, by your authentic self's devotion to how things feel. So the sooner you can separate your worth from the outcome, the freer you become. So because perfectionism is driven by fear. It's driven by your inner critic's obsession with how things go and how they're supposed to be and how they're supposed to look. So excellence is driven by alignment. Alignment with your authentic self. And when you are aligned with your authentic self, you look at how things feel. Does this feel expansive or does this feel constrictive? So, excellence is internal, it's your energy, it's your effort, it's your integrity. And when you live from that, you stop comparing yourself to other people and where they are in their life and their journey. And you start only taking guidance from you. And that's how you start expanding. Because if you take nothing else from today's YouTube video, I want you to hear this. The most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. So if you are stuck merging with your inner critic and listening to harsh and judgmental self-talk, or being obsessed with the outcome of things and going from the high of getting the goal to the low of worrying about the next goal, it is not going to matter what you achieve. You will always feel behind and like you're chasing the next high. So if that voice that you're listening to is rooted in your authentic self, and you know how to access a relationship with yourself that is kind and compassionate and empathetic and loving, it rewires everything. Now, that is way more than self-care. That is self-mastery. So everything you want is already waiting for you, but it has to find you moving. You cannot think your way into your dream. You have to do. You have to start small, you have to start messy, and you have to start now. And let me tell you, you will not always know the right direction and the right decision, but movement teaches you what stillness never can, right? When you stay stuck and you don't move, you don't learn. So as you move, your inner critic self will shame you for mistakes and failures and setbacks. But your authentic self will hold your hand and say, it's okay. We are learning. We are growing. Can now see that this thing didn't work out because we were supposed to learn from it. That's how you stay in the game long enough to build an extraordinary life. So this is a mindset that I live by, and unfortunately, I can't remember where I heard it, but it really is something that has always stuck with me, and that is the rule of thirds. So when you're growing and expanding, a third of the time you will feel amazing, right? You'll be so excited, you'll be so invigorated, you'll be so alive. And then the third of the time, you're going to feel kind of neutral. Like, okay, I'm not really sure what's happening here, but I'll just keep going. And then another third of the time, you're going to feel pretty awful. That's not failure, that's life. And when you can look at all of those parts and say, okay, this is just a third of the ride, you take your power back. You stay rooted in your authentic self. You stay focused on the vision and you keep going even when your inner critic is screaming that the sky is falling or, right, nothing's working out and who am I to do this? So we overestimate what we can do in a year and we underestimate what we can do in a decade. So real success, the kind of success that really feels aligned with your authentic self. And I'm not just talking about business success and money success. I'm talking about success in your sense of self. I'm talking about success in your joy. I'm talking about success in the relationships that really matter to you. That's real success. That takes time. And that kind of success is built in the ordinary, everyday moments. It's not built in the highlight reels. So these past 10 years, from where I started to where I am, have been shaped by every choice, every failure, everything that didn't go anywhere, every detour, every chapter that came before. So if you feel behind, just breathe because life is long. There are chapters of forward motion, there are chapters of staying still and stuck, and there are chapters that feel like you're going backwards. And it's all part of the blueprint for your extraordinary life. I've had seasons where my life completely fell apart, but I kept going because I knew it was just a chapter, it was not the whole story. So if you are in a hard season right now, please hear me. This is not the end. This is simply where you are in your story. I think about my grandmother. My grandmother met the love of her life in her early 80s. So the first 10 years of any dream rarely look like the dream. They look like long hours and unglamorous work and quiet perseverance. And even in those moments, it's important to look for the glimmers. Okay? Those are the golden little threads that teach you something about you, that teach you something about your vision, that grow you, that expand you, that reveal who you really are. And all of those little glimmers add up. So when your purpose finally meets your preparation, that's when you realize that every detour was truly divinely guided. So what you have to bring is valuable. It doesn't need to look like what anybody else brings because there is only one you. And so when you live from that truth and you know that what you have to bring is valuable, you become unstoppable. That's living from your authentic self. So even if you are in a career that you can't stand right now, when you manage your energy with excellence, people feel it, right? Nobody is coming to discover you. You have to show up for yourself. Start the business. Send the pitch. Make the art. Write the book. Get on the dating site. Change something. Just start where you are. And it's going to feel vulnerable, but that's how you know it's real, right? Every setback, every detour, it's all part of the map. If something gives you energy, if it makes you feel expansive, it's a breadcrumb from your authentic self. If it drains you, it is not for you. So don't overcomplicate this. Just start following the energy. Just feel your body. Does it feel expansive or does it feel constrictive? Because when you stay in motion, your network, your opportunities, your next chapter appears. You don't have to force it. You don't have to figure it out. Now, listen, not everyone is meant to start a business. Not everyone is meant to be huge. What really matters is knowing what you're going for. So your inner critic will chase shiny objects. Your inner critic will want you to be the best, be huge. Your authentic self knows what's truly right for you. Your blueprint it's not a one size fits all. It's your blueprint. So whatever path you choose, I want you to understand nothing happens overnight. 10 years is not too long. If you are willing to play that long game, that's your commitment. If you're not willing to play the long game, you're probably not really committed. You're probably living life from your inner critic self instead of your authentic self. So take your time, build the foundation, trust your timing, trust your chapter, and most importantly, trust yourself. Because your extraordinary life is not hiding out there in some perfect future version of you. It's being built right now, moment by moment by moment, in the messy, imperfect, beautiful process of becoming. So show up with excellence, lead from your authentic self, trust the timeline, and watch the blueprint of your extraordinary life unfold. So, thank you for tuning into today's episode. If you found this useful, I would so appreciate this if you would share this episode with somebody who needs to hear it. And if you are interested in taking this work further, please go to my website, masteringyourmind.com. Schedule some time to connect with me. I have two extraordinary programs to offer. One is the Mastering Your Mind program, where we go really deep into the mind method and anchor this into yourself so that you know exactly how to unhook from your inner critic and live your life from your authentic self. And the second is, if you want to take this work out into the world and make a difference with some group of people that you are passionate about, consider applying for my Mastering Your Mind certification program. Both of those things can be found on my website, masteringyourmind.com. Thank you so much for tuning in today.